So I recently made a statement about something that I've experienced continually, and that's the idea that um, the more I know myself, the greater I know myself, is a direct relationship between knowing the self and knowing other people. In other words, reading them, understanding behavior through observation. Um, so this involves intention, motivation, purpose. So you can read other individuals based upon what you know of your own behavior, your own behavioral patterns, and your own reaction patterns. And so if I know the depths, if I've taken the time to study myself and all my reactions and all my fear and all my insecurity, and I thoroughly look into that. I delve deep into, I make what was unconscious before, in let's say a Freudian sense or an analytical sense. I've unraveled all of my hangups, all of my fear. Right, I've been and touched it. I touched each one. I've experienced each one fully, consciously. All my insecurities, right? All my self-doubt, all my habitual thoughts, all my negative emotions. I've taken the time as each one has arisen, and I've practiced becoming conscious and experiencing them fully and understanding each one. Now, prepared with that, what I'm saying is when you go into the world and interact socially with others, that knowledge you've gained from yourself, from the study of the self, from the conscious study of the self, from the practice of consciousness, the conscious practice of looking inward, the mind looking inwards upon itself, and finding there the wealth of knowledge of humanity, the wealth of inherited legacy, the manifestation through behavior and thought and emotion of genetic inheritance. So now when I interact with others, I recognize those same things in the other as I have in myself. And in this way, it's very logical through theory of mind. In other words, theory of mind says that because I have a mind and I think such thoughts and I experience such experiences and I experience such emotions, that others in the world, because they're human and they're like me, will also experience those things. So when we gain the ability to recognize pattern recognition within the self, it's a very small bridge to the understanding that I could recognize those same things in others. So then I begin to understand motivation, intention, insecurities in others, self-doubt in others. I understand when they're struggling, and also understand if I devote my life to, let's say, on a different level. Let's say, use some simple examples and then get to more complex. So let's say I spent several years intense practice of archery or martial arts or a musical instrument, or let's say I learn a language and I've mastered a language, or I've let's say Chinese, and then I meet someone and I'm fluent, and I meet someone who has a year of practice. Through his communication with me, through our interaction, me observing him and listening to him, listening and observing, just like I do with myself through consciousness practice. I'm listening to what's going on, I'm observing what's going on. So here is a person, they're speaking Chinese to me, I'm listening, I'm observing, I'm analyzing, right? I come to a conclusion where I know exactly what his limitations are, where his knowledge ends of the language. where he's, the extent to which he can express himself. So because I have a fuller knowledge of the language, I can encompass with my language and my knowing, my knowledge of the language, encompass what he knows and delimit it and see the limitations, the boundaries of his knowledge of the language. So we can say the same thing in any type of discipline or any activity or anything that we learn, including learning about selfhood, what it means to be a human, right? So take another example, if I spend my life studying psychology, philosophy, evolutionary biology, evolutionary psychology, cognitive neuroscience, learning theory, right? If I spend my time learning all of the, let's say, the great disciplines, and I spend very little time with distractions or activities that don't enhance my intellect. So see, I'm studying these, let's say I'm studying music, right? I'm learning how to play the guitar, I'm learning music, I'm learning a language, I'm learning about cognitive neuroscience, I'm learning about philosophy, and all these disciplines, I'm learning some biology and chemistry, right? And this is what I'm doing with all my free time, right? What's happening? I'm reshaping my brain. I'm disciplining my mind, right? Because I'm not involved in gratuitous entertainment and the satisfaction of desires and the drive towards pleasurable experiences, right? I'm sacrificing those. I'm purging myself of those needs to just have pleasure, and instead I'm disciplining my mind to engage in these learning tasks, right? So I'm becoming more intelligent, right? I'm training my mind to be disciplined, to live a life of study and contemplation, right? And throw consciousness practices in there. So what's happening to me as a human, right? I'm becoming more intelligent, and I study history, and anything, you name it, economics, politics, although I wouldn't study politics, but human nature, let's say, all around. From every perspective, I'm studying human nature and what it means to be human, and how we learn, and how we discipline the mind, and how we increase cognitive capacity. Let's say from a multidisciplinary perspective, multiple perspectives, this is my endeavor. So now, if I understand all these things in psychology and all that, and I meet someone who spends most of their time watching TV or situation comedies or serials, TVs, and just works hard, but then the rest of his time is just spent in entertainment and pleasuring oneself, there'll be a difference in our cognitive capacity. There'll be a noticeable difference in our intellect. It's undeniable. There's no way you can deny two people given the same potential at birth, and one spends his time with frivolous activities and the other engages in intense discipline of the mind and learning how to learn. Now, when those two people meet, the one who has practiced with discipline will easily be able to encompass the mind of the other. Will easily be able to see the limits of knowledge of the other. So if I spend my life and my time acquiring knowledge and information and integrating it about myself and about the world and about humanity and about learning and cognition and consciousness, and all these things, by the way, take place within consciousness, and they're products of consciousness. All the knowledge, all the information is a product of consciousness and takes place because of consciousness. So, in a sense, then I've expanded my consciousness. And along with that, my intelligence and cognitive capacity. Now, if I meet that other person who spends his time just in pleasurable pursuits, I'll easily be able to see the limitations of his intellect, of his cognitive capacity. I'll easily be able to understand his motivations, his reactions, the limits of his use of language, his ability to express himself, the content of his lexical knowledge. In other words, the content, it'll be apparent to me how much he knows. All right, so in this way, he'll be entirely understandable to him. Like, it would be like a parent with a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old or an 8-year-old is able to understand his child because he has a much more enhanced cognitive capacity than the child. Right? So this is what I mean when I say, if you know yourself, you know all the variations of your behavior and all the motivations for your behavior. You've studied that. You've taken the time to, and thousands of hours to understand yourself and others. And you meet someone else who doesn't and behaves in ways that are unconsciously motivated through past conditioning, through social conditioning, through history of personal experiences, right? They're reacting to the world unconsciously. Through fear, self-doubt, greed. They may not be even aware of these things. Selfishness, right? Chances are they won't be aware of these things that are motivating them. But I can see them clearly in him because I've seen them in myself first. So yes, you'll find if you practice consciousness, that is, learning what it means to learn and to know, and learning how to know, and knowing what it is that knows within the self. Learning about what it is that knows the world, and what clouds the knowing, what hinders the learning and the knowing of the world, what it is that's blocking the ability to access the world of knowledge. You'll find that you're able to read other people and know other people better than they know themselves.